Welcome back to the VET S.O.S podcast, brought to you by the Who You Know Network. Remember, don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab the VET S.O.S Lifeline. I'm excited for this one, Eric. I am so excited. We got Keith Cassant with us, who just approaches things in such a powerful way. He's going to be dropping some serious knowledge bombs. I can't wait to hear what he's got to say. I'm here with Eric, as always. Eric, how you doing today?
Dude, I am loving life, man. It's a beautiful day here in Georgia. The sun is shining. I've had a couple of cups of coffee, which means I am ready for what Keith's about to drop. I am so excited, dude. This guy is a flipping legend. I love this dude. I love what he does. I'm happy to call him my friend and my brother. Keith, dude, what's up, man?
What's up? Not much, guys. I'm doing well. It's pretty nice here in Virginia Beach as well. So yeah, can't complain. Did some yard work this morning. Got a little bit of manly stuff done, and yeah, super excited to be here with you guys now.
Very nice, very nice. Well, without further ado, let's jump into your intro here. So after a 22-year career in the Army, Keith had a relatively tumultuous, you had to put a word in I couldn't pronounce, transition. This experience gave Keith an intense appreciation for the transition mentorship community and deep desire to give back to the community. By day, he lends his skills and talents to the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. By night, he provides transitioning veterans with assistance and services such as VA claims, finding their passion, seeking employment, to include but not limited to networking, resume writing, interviewing, and job offer negotiations, and many other skills a military professional in transition might need. Keith's sole goal is to help veterans transition smoothly and effectively as possible with maximum efficiency and impact. That is an amazing statement, and we love the fact that you are doing that. We need more people like that doing that for our community here, Keith. So, Keith, you already said you're doing great. You already said you did the yard work. We're going to jump right into the questions, because I'm sitting here doing the recordings while my kids are out doing the yard work. So, we're pushing it from a different perspective here.
Yeah, well, I'm an empty nester now, so now it falls back on me and the wife again. So,
yep. I got a teenager I'm teaching a little responsibility to. So,
absolutely. Yep.
All right. So, first, tell us a little bit about your transition. You say you had, a relatively rough one. Tell us a little bit about that. How'd that go?
Yeah. So a lot of the things I talk about with folks, I talk about them because I did them or I went through them and I experienced them. So, my tumultuous transition was largely, self-induced one, because I didn't have a mentor in the beginning and I put all my eggs in one basket. I thought it was too easy. I figured I was going to go law enforcement, it was, said and done. And all that, like who wouldn't want a 22-year Army veteran coming off, with all the knowledge and experience. So I put all my eggs in that basket and I was going to go be a police officer. Too easy. And along the way, that basket dropped and got shattered and all the eggs broke and I went into freak out mode. Could be a police officer due to medical reasons and stuff. So, yeah, I had to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up all over again. So, I went into freak out mode, had a family, wasn't an empty nester yet, had a wife and kids, and wanting to put food on the table and everything and not live in a cardboard box in the street corner. So, started leveraging every single resource I could get my hands on. So, every nonprofit you can think of, I probably at least looked into them or at least tried to reach out to them. Had some amazing mentors come alongside me. And, in the end, after a lot of stress, a lot of this gray in my beard is probably attributed to that transition. But in the end, I landed on my feet. And when I did, I realized, I wanted to give back to that community that came alongside me and helped me along the way. I figured if I can help just one veteran, if I can just help them ease that transition just a little bit, you're never going to be able to get rid of all the stress. That's one of the hard truths I might talk more about today is it's going to be stressful, but at the end of the day, if I can at least just ease some of that stress a little bit with a little bit of guidance and assistance, then I've succeeded and I've done my job.
Absolutely. And gray or no gray, that is an impressive beard.
Thank you.
I'm getting a little, it's a little warm over here. I'm looking at that beard. I'm just like, wow,
right?
I don't know.
Well, the wife gets the final say. When she gets tired of it, it goes. But hopefully she never gets tired of it. So,
see, a very smart man. Very smart man.
Yep.
All right. So you, in our conversation, you brought up the term Band-Aid ripper of transition. I love that. Just thinking about that, the visual of that is something I think we need in this community. Because I just finished my transition, you know, fully out now. And, you know, through that process, I met people along the way in some of the courses I did that, you know, had this opinion of, you know, how things were going to go and didn't want to listen to, you know, what was being taught and things like that. So I think someone ripping that Band-Aid off for people is much needed. So tell us a little bit, how did you come across that? Where did that title come from?
Somebody I was mentoring kind of gave me that. They're like, wow, you just don't hold back. You just come by and rip all the Band-Aids off. So, you know, and there's, it's important, you know, I'm not a jerk about it. Hopefully, you know, my wife does say, you know, I give them way too much information way too soon. You know, I overwhelm them right out the gate. I try not to. I'm trying to get better about that. But yeah, it's, you know, I like to joke, you know, I love food way too much. So if I sugarcoat it, I'm going to eat it before I even give it to you. So, you know, I try to, I got to give you the hard truths right up front. And it's just to set expectations. Like I said, it's never, you know, never to be mean. There's always a silver lining in it, or at least a way, okay, you know, not giving you the hard truth. Now how can we mitigate that, or at least, or even overcome it kind of thing. So, you know, there's a lot of, hard truths up front. Band-Aids being ripped off. Let's expose those instead of covering them up, and then that way we can tackle them and be aware of them moving forward.
I love it.
Absolutely, I love that.
I love it. You know, I've got to ask, and just as you're talking, Keith, this is kind of like popping in my mind, right? When you're dealing with one of us, right? When you're dealing with the us's of the world, and you're getting in the conversation and you're digging in and you're just trying to kind of help them navigate. What is it about? What is it about ripping the Band-Aid, right? What is it about that hard truth up front, kind of the bluff, right? What is it about that makes it so valuable? Because there's nuggets in there, right? There's things that we need to understand. What is it about that makes it so valuable?
I think, first of all, I think I get clout with the service members when I give them the hard truths. They're like, okay, this guy's going to give it to me real and raw, right? And I had folks, and I'm far from the first Band-Aid ripper. You know, it's just somebody gave that nickname to me. But yeah, I mean, I had two mentors in particular that were very raw with me, you know, and would give me that boot in my fourth point of contact when I needed it, kind of thing. So, you know, so the value being that, you don't have these, I don't want to say lofty, because it's okay to dream, right? It's okay to want, dream big and want to succeed and even excel. I think it's more of the hard truths of the work that's required that needs to go into it to attain those goals. I've seen some people, glide through their transition, and they landed on their feet, but they maybe didn't land where they wanted or where they thought. And then, they're trying to play the catch-up game to get where they wanted to be later on, because they thought it would be easy. They thought that TSSCI was going to land them the perfect job, or they thought coming out as a command sergeant major or E9 is going to land them the perfect job right out the gate. They didn't realize that, yes, there's still work to be put in. There's still grinding to be done. So yeah, just again, setting those expectations up early will hopefully help them with, realizing the amount of legwork that they're going to have to do when as they go along this journey.
I feel like you just took a shot at me being an Intel professional in my TSSCI.
Nothing against it, and it won't hurt. It won't hurt, but it's not going to guarantee you anything.
So, I absolutely love that, and I love your approach. And I had a mentor, or I guess a coach, through the Commit Foundation who was very much the same way. Because let's be honest, at least I can lie to myself all day long. I mean, I can, right, in my mind, I can make everything sound great. The older I get, the better I was, type of deal. So I think it's important that we have somebody that's going to say, hey, stop for a minute, pump the brakes, look in the mirror. Let's really take a hard look at this. I think that's a great point. So since you've transitioned, since you moved out, into the wild here, you've continued to give back and support various organizations. Can you tell us a little bit about, some of the organizations you've been involved with and some of the things that you've done?
My goodness. So, I mean, yeah, I volunteer with just about, well, not all of them, obviously. There's over 45,000 nonprofits registered with the IRS. So obviously I don't help with all of them, but
That'd be a crazy calendar
nonprofits
to
registered with the
maintain.
IRS just for veterans. I should should clarify. But so yeah, I'm what I call a freelance mentor more than anything. I don't get paid a cent, never received a single dime for any of the stuff that I've done. But yeah, obviously I'm on Veterati. That's kind of the freelance home for the freelance folks like me. But I do a lot of volunteer work for specific organizations. So, I'm a volunteer mentor with Hire Heroes USA. I'm a volunteer mentor with American Corporate Partners. And I do even started doing some more stuff with them. I've started writing weekly articles for the ACP Advisory Net, which then goes into ACP Connects. So, but yeah, I'm actually just finishing up my year-long mentorship on my second ACP protege. So they're already lining up the third for me. Hire Heroes USA, ACP, USO Pathfinders, another phenomenal organization. I've done a few presentations with them, especially back when I worked at Wells Fargo. I would do some like financial classes and stuff for folks that are transitioning, but usually kind of like the freelance aspect where if they come across somebody who's either looking to get into the financial industry or the cybersecurity industry where I now work, they'll send folks my way for mentorship. Let me think of who else I worked with. I can't remember. Onward Opportunity. I help them in numerous ways. Again, folks they send folks my way sometimes, but also I've done presentations for them on the human resources side, which is where my certification, when I went through 020, I got the HRCI certification. So I present kind of the block of instruction, if you will, on recommendations and how to prepare for that exam and that certification. And then I've also sat on their panels, their transitioner panels, where it's kind of like what we're doing now. It's a panel of service members that have gone before, and they're coming back in to talk to transitioning service members to give them advice, and it's kind of open Q&A for folks to ask questions and get some real life feedback kind of thing. So I think that's kind of the limit of all my volunteers work so far. So, but yeah, I'm sure more will come along, but yeah.
Keith, I love that too, because I think what I love about somebody like, what I love about you specifically, right, is I think you do a great job of highlighting how all of those organizations you listed stand shoulder to shoulder, right?
Yes.
They work in concert together. There are so many of us, I think, that think we have to choose, oh, well, I'm going to work with this organization, or I'm going to work with, no. And I love that you highlight that, and you highlight that by example, right?
Yep.
You, as long as I have known you, you have always been the dude that, like, you talk well, but you do, right? You're a man of example, and I love that about you, brother. I love the work that you put in for our brothers and sisters. I love what you're doing, but that just really highlights for me, like, that's what all these organizations do, right? They stand shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I forgot too. So if I could real quick go back, if I would be remiss if I didn't mention Military Transition Roundtable, which is like a bi-weekly online, like I said, it's a roundtable. So folks and their peers, as well as some mentors in the room helping. And then Transition 30, which is usually bi-monthly. But yeah, another amazing organization and group to work with. So,
let me get those real quick. There we go.
That's amazing. And most of the organizations you listed off, I did something with during my transition. And I know Eric's not going to hype ACP, but ACP is phenomenal. And I'm still communicating with my mentor and going through that whole process. Just an amazing experience in the things that you get. And the fact that each of those organizations has a little something extra. David Trenholm came on the show and he was talking about how, in a lot of cases, 80% of what the organizations do is fairly similar, whether it be resumes, interviews, whatever. But it's that special 20% that a lot of the organizations have that's different, that makes it special.
100%. Yep.
And MTR, I mean, they're doing some great things, have several cohorts. Really enjoyed being a part of that as well. And they were actually our first two guests on the show when we first started. So big supporters of everything going on there. So you have a full-time job, yet you're still doing all this other stuff. How do you manage it? How do you find time for this? Because you also have a family.
Yeah, let us in behind the curtain there, Batman. Let's see how this works.
So my wife is a huge role player in that. She is amazing. She keeps me in line. She reminds me more often than not, because yes, when I first started doing this stuff, I went full bore, and I was still trying to hold down a full-time job. So obviously it was cutting into personal time. And my wife was very she was great at just helping me establish boundaries, establish schedules, set limits, if you will. So, so generally speaking, and where I'm at now, my current employer, my boss, he's retired Army. Obviously I have a job to do, but if I, like at the beginning morning, if I'm like 30 minutes late, or if I drop out an hour, maybe in the afternoon early, to go mentor somebody kind of thing, because they can't, maybe they can't do after hours either. Then my boss is obviously, as long as I'm making meetings and hitting deadlines and everything else, my boss has been so understanding. So that's another reason why I love where I'm at with my employer as well. But yeah, all that to say, just I had to establish boundaries, and so it's I got my 5 o'clock p.m. I cut it off, so no later than 5. Early mornings I can do a little bit more on the front end, because my wife's getting ready for her job anyway, so. In the morning it's not too bad, and then I get 1 hour on the weekend. So this weekend is my 1 hour with you all. So you all got my 1 hour for the weekend. So
now I feel really special.
I was going to say,
right? Yeah,
I'm a little taken aback by that. I feel
right?
Good now.
Oh, you guys are worth it. So, so it's just having to set those boundaries, because it can be a very, very involving, very time consuming, and quite frankly exhausting. Not to say that the mentees are exhausting, but I'm an empath. So, that's one of the reasons I had to leave Wells Fargo. I love Wells Fargo, but I just, that job was killing me, because I was dealing with customer service, and customers aren't always happy. So it's the same way when you're dealing with mentees and transitioning service members. It's not always the most joyous conversation. Sometimes I'm dropping those truth bombs and those hard truths and ripping those Band-Aids off. And I feel for them, because I was there, especially. So yeah, it can be emotionally taxing. I've even taken a little bit of a step back on LinkedIn. I just announced that, I think, last week. Just got to take a little bit of a step back. It's getting a little bit too emotionally taxing. Again, my wife's a phenomenal, litmus test for me. She can usually tell if I'm getting a little worn out, and she'll drop little hints, as she lovingly does. So, but yeah, it's definitely got to establish boundaries, and hold hard times before you get overwhelmed.
Dude, I love that. And I know Shawn's wife is really, really good at that. My wife is exceptional at that. One thing my wife continuously reminds me, and I'll just say this for anyone who's listening, who does who tries to pour in as much as you do, you can't pour from an empty cup, right?
Absolutely.
You have 100%. To read. And I love that your spouse, your wife, is in the ring with you. I know how much she supports you, but at the same time, right? Like making sure that you're taking the time to refill your own cup so that you can continue to give.
100%.
I think that's great, dude. I think that's incredible.
Yep.
I'll also say, if you miss the subtle hints, frag out.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she's throwing a few frags every now and again. Oh yeah, she's a Latina. She's not opposed to that at all. So.
Yep.
But she's
that is so true. So, I think you brought up a great point there that the people in our audience really need to understand and embrace, and that is their mindset when they're talking to people in the transition space. Because we've all heard horror stories. You've probably experienced a ton of them. So has Eric. I don't really do any of that yet. But of the people coming in thinking they have it all figured out already, that it's their way and they're going to, use your words, all their eggs in one basket, and it's going to work out, and that they're going to be the next CEO of this company, and so on and so forth. How have you had to... aside from ripping the Band-Aid off, are there other ways you approach that to try to handle it? I really want our audience to take away the fact that they need to really take a look at their own mindset when they're doing betterati calls and things like that with people.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, just be open. Just be willing to take in feedback. Find a mentor, first of all. I mean, I cannot stress that enough. Too many people, they try to step out in this journey alone. They probably don't even think that there's mentorship out there. By the time they're seeing this video, they probably already somewhat realized it. But yeah, I just find a mentor. Find 10. Don't find one. Find 10. And then just listen. Be open. We're here to help. And I've heard some horror stories, even on the mentorship side or mentee side, with mentors, that some mentors are just they're too much doom and gloom, and it's like they just want to, just talk about all the negativity of transition and stuff. And, that's, like I said, that's the thing. We're going to rip the Band-Aid off, but I'm going to rub some dirt on it for you. I'm still going to give you some help at the end to find some silver lining or get past the obstacles. So, the advice I would give to folks is, find that mentor or mentors, find those mentors, and then just listen and just soak it up. It's not going to be easy. Because we're going to give you stuff to do. One of my mentors that was phenomenal. She came out of Onward Opportunity. She kind of took me under her wing personally, and she's gone on to bigger and better things herself. But I mean, that was like when I started to shift over to the mentor side. She came back and circled back and gave me some advice. And one of the biggest things she said is, you cannot do the work for them. You cannot rewrite that resume for them. You cannot find jobs for them. You cannot do any. So give them the advice, but lead the horse to water. That old analogy. But at the end of the day, you've got to do the work as the mentee, as the transitioning service member. So listen to what we have to say, but also be ready to put in the work. Because again, it's stressful. I get it. There's a lot to it. But again, if you put in the work, you're going to land on your feet. And you're going to be on to so many bigger and better things. We've all heard the statistics. The average veteran has 3 to 5 jobs in the first 4 to 6 years, which I always give window spans because I'm huge on statistics and studies, but they all have different results. So, 3 to 5 jobs, 4 to 6 years. And I fall in that, right? I'm on job number 4, and I've only been retired not even 4 years yet. But each job was upward mobility in some kind. I was either getting better pay, better hours, better benefits, some kind, or the work itself was going to be more enjoyable. But again, preparing for that, knowing that I might have to take that pay cut right out the gate to just get my foot in the door, get somebody to take a chance on me. That's another Band-Aid I tend to rip. But again, studies show though that, even though you might have to take that pay cut and tighten that belt for a little bit, statistically speaking, within 2 to 3, no more than 5 years, you're going to be making at least what you were making in the military, more often than not more, and so, it's just, again, ripping that Band-Aid off, but let's rub some dirt on it. Just know that, you're going to have to buckle down, tighten the belt, maybe take that pay cut. And I say maybe, it's not guaranteed. There are ways to, again, mitigate that and try to even break even when you first get out. But again, if it's, let me put it this way. I know I'm starting to ramble here, but let me put it this way. So I also work in the nonprofit space for security. So that's my other passion and background from the military is like physical security. And so I train security teams. And one of the things we talk about when we go into, disarmament and stuff, in knife fights, when you get in a knife fight, you need to go into that fight knowing you're going to get cut. Because if you don't, when it happens, because it's almost inevitably going to happen, you're going to get cut in a knife fight, you're going to go into shock if you're not mentally prepared for that. So it's the same way with transition. It's going to be tough. It's going to be stressful, and you're going to get cut. But as long as you're prepared for it before it happens, when it does happen, you're like, okay, that sucks. I knew it was going to happen. Man, my first resume review was brutal. I knew it was going to happen. That first job interview I had, I didn't get, offered the job. I knew it was going to happen. As long as these things, and they're not all going to happen, right? But there's going to be a few of them sprinkled throughout. Failure is going to happen a little bit. As long as you're prepared for it ahead of time, you're going to be so much better off for it, and it will propel you farther on down the road as you continue to find those better jobs and find those opportunities. Because once you get out and you take that first pay cut, but you got somebody to take a chance on you, again, statistically speaking, studies have shown you're going to take off. Once your rubber hits that road, you're gone. And that's why it's 4 to 6 or 3 to 5 jobs in the first 4 to 6 years, because our work ethic and all those values that we had in the military, the employers see that, and either they promote you within for that reason and you're kicking rear end and taking names, or another company sees you doing it on the outside and they try to headhunt you. So, all right, I talked way too much.
Listen, Keith, I love that because, and I will, Shawn, you said I wouldn't, but I will plug ACP, right? So ACP, I work for ACP in my day job, right? But listen, my ACP mentor, that was the one thing that she kept pushing me with, right? She's going to stretch me. She's going to grow me. She's going to challenge me. It is not going to be sit back and everybody's going to feel good and we're going to sing kumbaya, right? It's going to be, no, you've got to do the work. You have to be the CEO of your own transition. You've got to be in charge, right? You've got to go. Dude, I love, God bless. I know I'm saying this a lot during this interview, Keith, but I love the crap out of you, man. I love what you're doing. I love your approach to stuff. It's a practical approach, right? And it's tried and proven.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And what you were saying about mentorship to me goes back to something Eric told me early on in my transition when him and I were talking, was that he had essentially a board of advisors, his own personal board of advisors. So it's not just one mentor, two mentors. He's got a handful of people in different areas that help him in what he's trying to do. And I think that's phenomenal. I mean, you gotta be able to do that, and not just look at just one thing. And, with organizations like Veterati, ACP, and Commit Foundation, you automatically get some mentors that way. So
100%.
That diversity of perspective, that diversity of thought, the availability to get someone else's perspective or someone else's advice or even just their opinion and putting it all together, understanding, like you said, Keith, understanding that it is my responsibility to take it, but then it's my responsibility to action it. I've got to do what's best for me and my family.
Yep.
So I hate to say it, but we're coming down to the end already.
No.
Yes, I'm telling you, that this one went really fast.
I didn't even get to half my notes. That's okay.
That's good. No, that means we're going to bring you back.
That's all that means. Is you have to come back.
I would love to be back. I would love to be back. That's yes.
So as we're coming down to the end, what's one thing you want to leave our audience with?
Just don't give up. Like I've already said most of my other. Usually I say find a mentor, find 10. I already used that one. So once you find that mentor, just don't give up. Like I said, it's gonna suck. Even if you have a relatively smooth transition, you're gonna stress out about some stuff. Just keep going, put in the work, you'll be okay. Well, so I'll say it this way. So always, like early on, I was always like, what is the perfect formula? Like, what is the formula for successful transition? Because first of all, how do you define a successful transition, right? So you kind of have to go very high level overview. So I've come up with the formula, and it's kind of high level overview, but there's three things to be a successful transitioner. So one, find a mentor, find 10, put in the work, and then don't give up. If you do those three things, and there's a lot that goes into those three things, but on a high level, as long as you do those three things, you'll be okay. And that, it sounds simple, and it's not, but that's all it takes. So.
Absolutely. That is beautifully stated and right to the point. I love it.
Shawn, I don't know if you noticed, but that the bomb came up and went away real fast. That's the first time you and I have ever hit the bomb at the same time. We both saw it. We both heard it. We both hit it because that was perfectly stated.
Yep.
I'm honored.
Eric, you got any closing statements?
I don't know what I can add to that, man. I don't know what I can add to that. I will listen, for those of you listening, if you are not connecting with Keith, if you're not following him, if you're not reading his stuff, you are missing out. Some of the articles he writes for us and for the ACP team is just incredible. The stuff he puts out on LinkedIn is amazing. If you're not connecting with him, you're missing out. So please connect with Keith. He's a gem. He's a great dude and one of my best friends. So I appreciate you, brother.
Love you, brother. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. This has been a huge pleasure. Thank you for coming on today, Keith, and sharing your knowledge with us. I know we had a conversation one-on-one, and I love your no-nonsense approach. I mean, you're direct to the point, but you're not rude about it either. It comes from a sincere place, and that's what makes it meaningful. Yep. So appreciate definitely everything you're doing to help our community. We want to thank everybody for tuning into the VET S.O.S podcast today. And remember, don't drown in the sea of transition, but grab the VET S.O.S Lifeline.